Hello and welcome to Tyldesley Tales. As you know, for the last 4 years we've been doing the fabric of the building up, the bricks and the mortar. But now we're starting this new series called Tyldesley Tales, where we want to get to know about the people and the places and put some meat on the bone of the stories that have been around Tyldesley for years, and we want to tell those stories using local people, local legends, and local heroes like you. So if you know somebody who you think's got a good story to tell about Tyldesley, then tell them to get in touch with us here, where it says get in touch with us, and we'll get them on the next episode. For this first one, come with me. We've got Les West, a local rugby legend who's lived in Tyldesley most of his life, and Adrian as well, Adrian White, who produced and hosted the Dancing with Benson Bongs programme on Radio M29. So I've got them in the bar, so come and have a chat. Come and have a listen to them anyway. See what they've got to say about their lives, their stories, and the places they love in and around Tyldesley.
So, Les, we eventually meet after all these years and chats over the radio and stuff. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine, thank you, Adrian. Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. It's like James Bond meeting, the man from Spectre.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked, like you said, with the radio, and I've listened to you, I've loved the music, etc.
Yeah. Well, you're a bit of a soul music man, aren't you? I've sort of picked that from the
To
conversation.
be honest, I like quite a few things now.
Yeah.
But I think as you get older, you do. But
Taste
I try to find that some of the music I've always liked.
Yeah.
From even the soul times, I like that, but I like my own collection. Like I said, we've talked before about Frank Sinatra.
That's right.
Stuff like that. A lot of my friends would have looked down on me for having Sinatra, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And I love some of the rock bands.
Yeah, yeah. And I did know, I read somewhere, I think it was on Facebook, that you started to learn how to play the saxophone.
I did, yeah.
Bongs are playing the saxophone, whatever.
A bit late in life.
Yeah. How's it going?
I'm afraid. Do you know, I'm not touched.
Oh, have you not?
For a couple of months. I don't know why. I think it was the winter months, but now it's coming summer. I might get back on. But again, that was because I've always liked that in groups, bands, as you know, Junior Walker and Ramsey Lewis, that sort of music.
Yeah. I think it's everyone's.
Chicago, I saw it because they had a big band sound.
Yeah. So anyway, listen, I'm from Green Street. That's where I stem from. Down the Cobble Street, just down the road here from Stanley Street, and I lived there till I was 17, until the council, in their ultimate wisdom, decided to serve a compulsory purchase order on us on the street.
As they do.
So the community we all dispersed in different directions, and we knew everybody. I was only, as I say, I was 17 when I finally got removed, but I knew everybody who lived in the street in Green Street then. Of course. And practically overnight, I lost touch with 90% of these people because we all went in different directions. But where did you start?
Well, it's funny you should say this because I've got a surprise for you.
Oh, right.
My father was from Green Street. And I've got the proof I've got the certificate, I've got a marriage certificate, and I've also got sadly a stillborn child they lived in Green Street.
Oh, right.
As well. So I know all about Green Street. I think I told you before, didn't I, that I'm sure Green Street is in some of the old stuff I've got at home.
Yeah.
And it is. When I found it and I took a snap of it, and Mary Street, because my dad's brother was Reg. And it was Reg West.
Reg West. Right, okay.
And he lived there at the time.
Actually in Green Street?
Yeah, actually on Green Street, 21.
21, right, okay. It's next door to my grandma's. My grandma lived at 23. Yeah. So the Richardsons moved into 21. As I say, I knew the people ever so well. And I've got unbelievable memories of Green Street. But back to you a little bit, because I remember as a young lad growing up, because you're I'm not being unfair, you're a few years older than me, Les, not that many. Yeah. But I remember as a young lad, I used to see this big fella walking around town, and everyone's saying, "Don't fall out with him. He's the cock of the town, right? He's the tough one. He plays for Tyldesley Rugby." And I used to see you Never saw you getting in any bother, actually, in all
No,
fairness. I
no.
never saw you getting involved in any fisticuffs in the pubs and
No,
stuff.
of course not.
But
no.
but I probably because I know you're a big Tyldesley Rugby lad,
Yeah.
or you
I
was.
think.
Did your emotions get the best of you?
No, because I think rugby was a great leveler. To be honest, I grew up with maybe being a bit. Well, to tell you the story, right, I was adopted.
Right.
So I wasn't born in Tyldesley.
Oh, right.
4-year-old and a lovely couple called Bill and Beatrice West, who were from Mary Street as they were then, but previous.
Mary Street's the one next to. Is that the one next to the?
It was a pub.
Next to the Skenners?
Yeah, it was a pub house. It was belonged to the brewery.
Right.
And I grew up. That's where I grew up. I went to, and everybody will remember this, the British school.
Which school?
The British school.
The British school.
Everybody will know that if you say the British school, it's the one where the car park is now.
Oh, right, okay.
Right.
I didn't know that, right,
Yeah,
okay.
that was an old, it was a lovely building, old school.
Yeah.
And that was my first taste of school because I'd actually been in quite a few children's homes.
Oh, had you?
Get there, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of, like I said, political reasons as to why, but there was a lovely lady called Mrs. Grundy, who was a very good friend, and I was on the council. He was a council at the time, and they arranged for me to be adopted because it was difficult for me to be adopted at the time.
So where was you born?
I was actually born in Accrington.
Right, okay. Yeah. That's where you stem from originally.
But I was moved up and down the country in different foster homes, children's homes, and eventually I was adopted from Bristol, in a Bristol home.
Right,
Brought back up this way. So I was brought up in Mary Street, just a few yards away here. And that was my first taste of Tyldesley.
Was it?
And it's surprising, different guys I can remember just coming down and talking to you. And I felt, it's not sound a bit soft but wanted. Yeah. I just love that, being able to talk to people and, not just being a children's home with lots of other children.
Do you know, Leslie, but Tyldesley was that town, wasn't it? It was, I mean, obviously it's always been a very, very closely knit community. And there wasn't that many, I don't know what the population is, but it wasn't massive. Yeah. But it was a warm town. It felt very inclusive and I as I say, even though I've lived in Atherton now for 42 years, I still refer to Tyldesley as home because it was, I suppose it's where you you grow up and you go to school. And I mean, what school did you go to?
Well, I finished up at the British one, which was the infants, and then St George's.
St George's?
Which aerial trade to St George's here.
What, with Mr. Hosfield?
Mr. Hosfield.
Oh, there's a character.
The man, the legend.
You know, he was a legend. Roger Hosfield.
Roger Hosfield.
Honestly.
Well, he was a friend of my dad's as well.
Was he?
The thing is, you see, Adrian, when you have a father who's in the council, plus I'm slightly, people know me, they see me.
Yeah.
Do you see the outside of me?
Yeah.
Know what I'm like. You can't get away with doing anything wrong.
No,
because it goes straight back to your dad, and your dad knows all the teachers because he's a counsellor.
And so, it was pride. There was parents wouldn't let you misbehave would they?
Because they know you're going, you see.
That's right.
So Mr. Hosfield knew I was going to go to school.
Yeah.
And it was lovely, right? But he still treated me like everybody else.
Did he? Yeah.
If you didn't behave yourself, you got the same thing in and a whack.
Do you know what he used to? Do you remember what he used to do when if somebody was? Many people used to get a clatter around the ear hole, but if somebody really misbehaved, he'd grab them and he'd put them over his knee. Remember?
That's right.
And he used to, and I tell you what, and it was a shocking. As a kid, it used to shock me watching him do this. And so a lot of people say, "Oh, he was this and he was that, and very aggressive." And do you know something? Oh. For me, he was the best teacher in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I just loved him.
I probably echo that as well.
Yeah.
And because he loved his cricket, didn't he?
He loved his cricket. He used to bring out that roll the mat out,
roll the mat out.
On the
3 stumps on a stand.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He'd get his bat, and if you didn't hold it right,
he'd put you straight, wouldn't he? And his lovely wife taught at the school.
Did you not
know Mrs. Hosfield?
No, I didn't know.
And you remember that trip that they used to take us? I don't know whether they did it when you was there. They used to take us on a trip once a year to the Lake District, and Mr. Osfield, he always referred to it as Lakeland.
Lakeland.
Right, but he loved it, and he used to take us all to.
Yeah.
So we all look forward to that. But it was a great school, wasn't it? I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, because you remember taking you down to play football. Down Squires Lane.
That's right. That's
Remember,
right.
The field, and it's still like that now when you go down
the
football, because I was absolutely useless.
Oh, was you?
Oh, I couldn't.
That was it was the wrong shape ball for you, was it?
Wrong shape for me. But that's another story, you see, because I got into rugby by watching. I always read books. I love books. Library.
It's your place,
I loved
is
it
it?
from an early age.
So good news, isn't it, about the library?
Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. I'd have hated it to go.
Yeah.
So I was so glad I'm waiting to get back into it now to get the books. Yeah. So and I saw a film, and I bet I can't remember the name of it now. I think it was another Saturday. It was like rugby league anyway.
Oh right, okay. A good old northern black and white.
And it was played actually in Wakefield, I think it was, where it was filmed and everything.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. I thought, that's going to be the game for me. It didn't matter. Rugby union.
You're not really played it at school or anything then?
No, because I only played football. Yeah, I hadn't gone to senior school.
Yeah.
So
all right, okay.
I remember, I don't know whether you were Tom Aspinall. Not the fighter, the footballer.
Right, Tom Aspinall.
He was a neighbour of mine in not Mary Street, sorry. Tyldesley, Beechwood Crescent.
Beechwood Crescent, right, okay.
Well, he turned professional.
Oh, did he?
Tom did, yeah. But he was the opposite from me. He could play football.
He had the silky skills.
Yeah, and he was very, very good at it. No, I was useless. So we always had a bit of a talking match, our football's better than rugby. Rugby's better than
it's funny, it's just the two sports, aren't they? They differ in that. I mean, they both play with the ball and they both team members, but it's a different. It is a different game altogether. But I do remember you from the rugby club, because I mean, as I say, everybody sort of spoke so highly of you as a rugby player for Tyldesley, and there were some characters down there, weren't there? I mean, thinking back, I mean, people like Pete Oddy. The school teacher.
Yeah, he used to. If we went anywhere, we'd play away matches, and he'd get everybody together, and we'd have a sing song, and so that kept you all together as a group. That bonding. And it sounds a bit. Everybody says this now.
Well, it's funny with rugby because I used to do it. I'm not a rugby player. I played 1 year at Lee Boys Grammar. I played for the rugby team, but I realised it was a tough old game, so I went back to football. I remember going down to. I used to walk down Wells Street and see some of you lads, and I used to see you clattering and knocking 7 bells out of each other, and then as soon as the whistle went, you were shaking hands and jumping in the bath together and out at the bar, and word football is going.
Right.
The rivalry carries on for weeks and weeks. Yeah. It was not like that, was it?
Well, it was. It was the camaraderie, because, I mean, I did go from school down to, if you remember, the old ground.
Yeah.
You'll probably, you not.
What? Down Wells Street?
It wasn't there. It was a little old hut.
Oh, right.
Then, before that was built.
Oh, right, okay.
That was built by Kencast, by the way.
Oh, was it Kencast? That was them. Shadow Lane.
Shadow Lane, yeah. But they had a little old, I don't know what you could call it, like a hut, I suppose.
Yeah.
But that's where they changed. And I remember going down and I felt, should I go in?
Right, this was before. Right, okay.
Yeah, this was before, and I thought, shall I go in? And I remember all the singing going on. And nobody, there was no get out, no, you can't come in here. But they welcomed me.
They did, straight away.
And from that moment, I thought, yeah, this is the life for me. I love this.
Yeah.
And eventually, years and years later, I moved into the top of Wells Street on Alexander Street.
Oh, right, overlooking the sacred turf.
Yeah. So, what more can I do? I talked to, professionals, and I had friends who were professional, some were amateur, some professional.
Yeah.
But I loved it there because the whole atmosphere was great. The characters, it
was full of characters. Back to Pete Oddy, he was talking to me one day, and he said he used to play for the team. He says, but you were his minder on the field. He said, if it ever got a bit tasty, lizard run across the salty floor. So he appreciated it anyway.
Well, there was always two of us. There was sort of, which were both 6 foot, which I was 6'4" then, and Norman, who played second row.
Norman, what's his name?
He was Norman Davis. He's got a hotel in Blackpool.
Oh, right, okay.
Big Norman. But he's from down here.
Yeah,
He's in
yeah.
the army.
I don't know, but people around here will remember Norman, obviously won't.
Big Norman, so they always remember. So we go to any clubs now, they always remember it was me and Norman, the red-haired lad, and Les. You know, so
they were the and the other fella that I can remember at the rugby club is Brian Gone, who was the editor of the journal.
That's
wasn't he?
right, Brian.
And, Brian. When I went to grammar school, I remember walking in, and like people said to me, "Don't fall out with him. He's the cock of the town." He was the cock of the school.
Oh,
so I was just thinking before I met you, thinking, God, if those two have ever fallen out on a rugby field, that would have been a battle. It would have indeed.
I think with more sense though.
All right.
I think that was it.
Did you both have a bit of respect for each other?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, and Brian as a person, as a rugby player, because I think he'd already played pro then. So in those days, you couldn't play.
All right, okay.
You could, if you even turned out for a rugby league club, you couldn't go back to play. You were banned for life.
Right.
So if you did play, you had
Really?
to keep it a secret.
Really?
Yeah,
Honestly?
Yeah, you would be. That would be it. You'd be signed out. You
Right,
wouldn't play
right.
again.
Hey, and you know, just on that sort of topic of rugby, down at the bottom of Wells Street, someone told me a while ago, I don't know how true this is, and perhaps you can help me with this, that the very first, or one of the very first rugby league teams was Tyldesley.
Yes.
A professional team.
That's right.
Is
yes.
it right,
That is right. There's a blue plaque, which was distributed out a few years ago. I've actually got a badge with it on.
Right, okay.
And it's like the old sort of fashion badge. But then, which was the Northern Union, which was run, obviously, the rugby league came in because of payments to pitmen, mill workers.
Yeah.
They played rugby, they couldn't make the time up. So which was sort of the start of professionalism.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the whole thing, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's a big history about that. But Tills was one of the first to play.
Really?
I think they played Wigan.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh God, that
and
would have
it was something
been a
like,
rivalry
it was
there.
something like 1-0.
Yeah.
Because it was an all different structure of rugby.
Right.
Then it wasn't the same. I think it was more kicking and sort of. I wouldn't like to have played in those days.
No.
And plus, in winter sport, you played in knee-high mud.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what it was like.
Yeah, the smell of wintergreen. I remember when I played with football.
Yeah,
I played for lots of football teams around here, and one of the memories I can remember was the smell of wintergreen.
Yeah.
Before in the winter time when it was.
Yeah.
I mean, the facilities were pretty poor back then, weren't they?
Oh,
I mean, you look at the facilities now at Fred Longworth's, and I look at these the field they play. Well, it's not the bits of the what's his stuff. It's not proper.
Yeah,
grass,
the
is it?
AstroTurf. There,
but fantastic facilities.
Yeah, they've got everything. I think now. But it seems a shame because all those years ago, I remember there was good athletes. You know, I'm talking about when I was in the senior school.
Yeah.
Who never got any further.
No.
Because they were never too under somebody's wing.
Well.
And that was the old, the system.
I know
the system wasn't good.
Well, do you know? I'll tell you something. This is a true story. When I was a second in Lancashire at the triple jump when I was at school. I was a good triple jumper.
Right.
And in fact, I never got beaten the 400 metres in 5 years, right? So I was quite a good athlete. But like you said, back then, the teachers weren't interested in taking it forward. Nobody seemed to come along and pick you up. And of course, and the blunt truth is, of course, there was no real money in athletics.
No.
Everybody wanted to be a football star, didn't they? In that respect.
That's right. I can remember going to the grammar school and I actually won the high jump there.
Did you? Or you were an athlete as well, yeah?
I won the high jump there, yeah. And I remember, but that was the same. Nobody come and said, we can hone your technique and we can make it. Because just after, which you probably remember, was the Fosbury flop.
The Fosbury, Dick Fosbury. Yeah, Dick Fosbury, I remember him doing it.
Because then you had to straddle jump.
Yeah. There was two, I think. There was a straddle jump and one other.
Right.
I can't think what it was.
Kick
something
like that. Which was rubbish.
But he turned up to something. Dick Fosbury, didn't he?
The Fosbury flop, and everybody stood back amazed. And
I don't think we saw any of that.
I was doing something similar to that.
Yeah, always, yeah.
Then, I wouldn't say quite the same, but I knew I'd won it, and I knew I could jump high.
Yeah.
But like I say, once you come out, you've got wine, women and song, as they say,
Well, absolutely, yeah.
So,
never entered my head, of course.
No, of course it didn't.
No. But back to Tyldesley. I mean, as I say, I can remember as a young kid growing up, and we all used to play we used to congregate on the library steps. Of course, the library. I have to touch on the library because, of course, So as a kid, I lived in Green Street, so the library was just around the corner for me. So it was a place of, and I was sort of went to grammar school, so I tried to work hard, and I was quite studious at some stage in my life. And I used to go around to the library, and it was a lovely place to just be. The silence was something nice, even though, probably you rebelled as you got older, but at that time it was something nice, and I used to walk into that. Remember that reading room where all the old chaps used to sit? You'd sit there with the newspapers,
right,
and if they heard you talking a little bit too loud, they'd just pull the newspaper down so they could just make eye contact, and that was enough.
That's right. You had respect, though.
Didn't you? You had respect, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I got to eventually stop in, sometimes having a brief chat there and look myself, sit down, just for 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, So did you spend a lot of time in the library?
Yeah.
Which characters were in there? Who ran the library? Can you remember?
I know, but the ladies I knew were in, because do you remember they used to have the old card system?
Yeah.
I always thought, what's going to happen then if I knock all those cards away?
Oh, did you? Funny.
I never did.
No, but it's funny the thoughts.
One of them silly thoughts you want to go for your end.
Yeah.
And I'll call them over.
Are you going to stop? Well, my wife worked at the library, Les. She worked there for nearly 10 years, Sharon, and we met. She worked at the same time as Kath Triner. I don't remember Kath. And Lynn was the big tall girl, Lynn. She was the librarian. And so that's where I met Sharon years later. But anyway, back to where I started as a kid. I used to go in and spend time there, and they used to have a guy there. We used to call him Potter. He was like the what's he called, the odd job man. He used to he keep his eye on things, and he once chased my brother. My brother's Duncan. I don't know if you know Duncan White. He was a very quiet lad with ginger hair, and he's still around, Duncan, but a bit poorly. But I remember once he used to wind this Mr. Potter up or whatever, and he chased him out of the library, and he ran straight into the into the door, the plate glass door, and he went straight into it, and so my brother kept out for the next 5 years. He thought, I better not go in there again. You know what I mean? But it was. I thought it was, and down at the bottom of the library, they had this, the children's bit. We had these little stools and little tables, and they had a wonderful thing on the wall there, pictures of all these different characters, Treasure Island and Peter Pan, and some bloke from the council turned up one day with 2 buckets of emulsion paint and went over it, and I can't believe it, that this wonderful mural that we'd all sort of sat and stared at for years, it just disappeared one afternoon into into cream magnolia.
No remorse, just do it. But, I like to do it. It's my job.
But as I say, back so years, I left the library, and as you get a bit older, you're a bit more. It's a bit more cool, aren't you? You don't want to go into a place like that. And then, of course, I started training to be an accountant, so I started to go back in, and that's where I met my wife. So, of course, when the fight to save the library came up, that's why I wanted to get involved, because I had such an awful lot of memories of the library. So and then I look just across through the window here, Les, and you look at that Market Square. What can you remember on the Market Square?
Well, I remember that which wasn't there then, the memorial there.
Yeah, right.
Which I think that was down on somewhere near the common.
Do you know? I think it might have been actually.
Then they moved it up to here.
Yeah.
If I remember. But I came here, the Christmas tree, you always had a beautiful Christmas tree.
Didn't they? Special.
Yeah, and I can remember the Star and Garter pub.
The Star and Garter.
Yeah.
Stanley Whittaker, my uncle, used to spend his life in there.
Yeah, which...
did you go in there? Did you?
I did. Well, I don't know whether you remember Matt.
Matt. I can't remember Matt's last name.
I can't remember his last name, Matt.
Hello, love. He had a strange...
A very strange
voice, didn't he?
Well, I used to... When we didn't have coaches or anything then at the club, we used to go in the cars. So as a youngster, I was playing on the 3rd, 4th team, whatever it was, and we used to meet here. So, because I wasn't far away, I'd always nip in, just have a shandy or something.
Before the game?
Before the game, yeah. And he always used to say to me, "Oh, Les, shandy, Andy."
That sounds like
that was exactly what he used to say every time I went.
What a character!
Oh, Shandy Andy.
Isn't it funny the memories that stick with
you?
you?
I can remember him as though he was here.
And do you recall next door there was a little barber's shop?
Oh.
And the fella, I don't know his name, I can't remember his name, but he had a problem with it. So he used to be walking along the street, and he couldn't look up. He must have had a spinal problem.
Right.
So he'd be constantly looking at the floor. Only a small fella, and that's what I can remember about him.
Was he the one who used to do the old haircuts? There was one there who used to call him. I forgot what it was. We used to always have a bucket haircut.
Oh, well, I used to.
Or was that before? I'm not sure.
Well, haircuts, I always went into Stan here on the main road. It'll come to me later.
Yeah.
And he was a big Bolton Wanderers fan with Stan. And he was a lovely fella, a really lovely fella. And I used to go in and say, crew cut please, Stan. And I don't know whether a crew cut...
No, you wouldn't know what it was or not.
What a crew cut is these days.
Yeah.
But we're not particularly short of barbers, are we, in Tyldesley these days?
Not at the moment.
No, but them days, I think there was only... I think there was these two.
I can only remember one down Ashley.
Was there also one at the bottom of Stanley Street? You know, remember Carlton Catterall?
Oh, Carlton was there first, wasn't he? Then he moved up
and then he moved on to the High Street, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because Carlton was quite a character.
That's right.
I
think he was from Ashley, wasn't he? I'm sure.
Was he?
Was he?
But he was a nice
character himself. Lee, my son, he always went to him on way to Coles.
Yeah.
And he never changed up until him closing the shop.
Right. And I'll tell you something else that we weren't short of in Tyldesley. Butchers.
Oh no, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, when you think back how many butchers there were in this. I mean, I read somewhere at one time there was up to 11 butchers in Tyldesley, which is crazy.
If you think about the size of
the place.
Yeah.
How the heck could they...
But I think, like, sort of, our parents had their favourite ones.
Yeah.
Even though there was there and everybody knew it, nobody had a grudge because you were going into that one because it was shared. Everything was always shared.
It did seem like that, didn't it?
And I was sort of the two. We used to have this shop. I forgot what it was called. Not Mason.
Where was this?
Just along the front here.
Right.
One of the butchers.
The butchers I can remember.
As soon as you said the last name, I'll know.
There was Danny Jarvis.
That's it.
Was it your on Danny Jarvis?
Was the daughter. Well, I was actually the page boy to May Queen.
Right. Okay.
Somewhere I'd have to show you one.
Yeah.
And like there with all silk on, you know.
Oh.
And she was the May Queen. But I used to love her. I sort of worshipped her from afar.
Did you?
Yeah, you know.
And it never happens, does it?
No,
there was a girl at St George's, Janice Galooly, and she was so smart, Liz. I thought I was smart, I was miles and miles. She was always top of the class by a mile. I was always second or third. She was way in front, you know. She took her O-levels or G's or whatever they were at the time, when she was about 13 or something, passed them all, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I left school, and I never saw Janice. And I believe she lived in Astley, and because Graham follows, who works for me,
Yeah.
Graham said, I saw Janice the other day, and I said, I'd love to meet Janice. I've never seen her. I remember I was in St Ives, and remember the old wishing wells? I remember throwing a penny or 10 penny into the wishing well and hoping that I'd married Janice Gillian. I can remember it. It was unbelievable. And many years, decades and decades later, I was down here where it's where Aldi are now, but it was another supermarket then, and I can't remember which one it was before Aldi.
Oh, that's right.
Is it Morrison's? I don't know where it is.
Yeah, Morrison's, I think, was the one before it.
Right.
I think. Yeah.
Well, I was parked there in the car park, and Janice Galooly turned up in a car and got out the car. I was that excited, and I ran across and I went, Janice, and she went, Adrian, how are you doing? I've not seen it, Les, for decades, honestly. We stood talking for 3/4 of an hour on the car park, right? And then off she went, and sadly, it's unbelievable this. A month later, she died. She died. She went to bed at night and never woke up. Incredible. And I know Janice was quite well known in the town, but you find lots of. I mean, when you think back to your lifetime and the characters that you've known and associated with.
Yeah.
I don't know who your pals were at school. I mean, because there's a bit of a difference in our age group, so I may not recognise.
Yeah.
Did you know? You didn't know Jack Whittaker, did you? The
No.
water polo.
The water polo star, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the names my father used to talk about because he used to go and he used to take me to watch polo in the old Tyldesley baths.
How busy was he? It was popular, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? And I can remember when we used to go, there used to be like stalls.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's only this big. And they used to put a waterproof sheet over your knees.
Oh, right, for this.
Is that for the splash? A long waterproof. Yeah, they used to bring it out and put it amongst all the people at the front, and used to put it over your knees because they splashed about that much the water polo.
It was mad. Was this at the Tyldesley Bath that's there now?
No, this is the original Tyldesley Bath at the bottom of.
Is it Union Street? Was it not Union?
I think it was
Union Street.
Right at the bottom.
I can't remember it before my time, but I know there was a bath there.
It was an old dingy looking place.
Was it?
It was just a place where we went.
Yeah.
When we went from school, we would go to the back. Yeah, we'd take everybody get the towels.
Yeah.
They go into the bath. And I knew the son of who owned it at the time, so I used to go a lot free and have lessons.
Oh, did you?
So that's why I learned to swim at a quite young age.
Oh, right.
Because you used to have the big swimming baths, but you used to have a little one as well.
Yeah.
In another room. So I used to go in there, just learn with the old floats.
Oh, would you remember going to the baths that are there now?
Yes.
Do you remember spending time? Yeah. Do you remember people like Alan Perry? Alan Perry was a good swimmer. Then there was.
He swam for Lancashire, didn't he?
Yeah.
Butler.
Do
you remember him? They had the pub on the corner. He went to Butler's for a while. Didn't he?
Right.
Butlers.
Okay.
Graham.
Right.
I think he swam for Lancashire as well.
And of course, the big name, I suppose, thinking back, was Duncan Cleworth. Because he swam for Britain, didn't he?
Yeah.
Was it the Montreal Olympics? I think it was. Ooh. He lived on Mealy Street.
He did though, yeah. They all lived like, we had quite a few of the old... Yeah, but like you say, was it Alan Perry?
Alan Perry, yeah.
I remember, because he was only small, wasn't he? But I can remember him swimming. I never competed. But I couldn't realise I could swim enough to save my life.
Do you know, it's funny.
I wasn't a lover of water though.
No. I wasn't a great swimmer. It's funny because Jack Whit, he was my uncle.
Was he?
Yeah, he swam the Mersey 3 or 4 times. He was a legend in Tyldesley for his swimming prowess. Yeah. And he used to take me to the baths to teach me. And I was embarrassed to tell people that, and I suppose he'd be embarrassed as I was his nephew.
Yeah.
I was useless. And he was the best swimmer. Honestly, he was brilliant, Jack. Another great, absolute fantastic character, you know.
I can remember my dad always saying that. Oh, Jackie Whittaker's in swimming today.
And funny, he told the stories he could tell. Leslie told me a story. When he was a young lad, he used to walk around Tyldesley with his pals. And they got up to all sorts of mischief. You know, nothing bad like today. And one of the things they used to do, they used to get a dried pea and they used to throw it at somebody's front window, and then they'd smash an empty sterilised milk bottle. They'd smash it on the floor. So these people come running out thinking they'd smashed the window. You know what I mean?
That's a good one.
And when it was Jack's turn, he was that excited. He threw the bottle through the window and dropped the pea on the floor. And that's God's honest true story. And he used to tell us this story, and he'd have tears running down his face. And we'd heard it umpteen times, but he still made us laugh. He was such a great character. So there was lots of great swimmers in Tyldesley.
Well, talking about legend, you mentioned Jackie Whittaker, but did you know Jack Johnson?
Jack Johnson, do you know?
He's on Facebook.
I'm fairly sure, and I might be wrong, Les, I'm fairly sure he was in this very pub 2 weeks ago. I might be, because he was another guy that I looked up to. Yeah. He was a good-looking guy, wasn't he?
He was. He still is.
Hated him.
That's the trouble. He still is.
Well, yeah, he
keeps in touch on Facebook. He's always abroad somewhere.
Is he?
And he had his knee done, and he's walking like he's never had,
Honestly,
had a problem.
I'm sure it was him. I wanted to go across and ask him, but was that in case it's not, you know what I mean? But I'm fairly sure he was.
He had Michael, who was his younger brother.
Oh, Mick Johnson,
and she sadly died, didn't she? She used to run the market stall.
Yeah.
And I used to know them all. My dad obviously knew their parents as well.
Yeah. There was good looks in the family, weren't there, to be honest?
See, Jack was another reason why. And I said to Jack, I'd be always grateful to him because he looked after me as a kid. And he looked after me when I went to school. Because even though he was older than me, those first few years, which are always the worst when you start senior school, well, Jack was, as you say, was the cock of the school.
Yeah.
So
he looked after you.
He looked after me. And I've always thanked him for it. And up to this very day, I've always thanked Jack for looking after me.
Yeah.
And he used to bring me toys. When I was little, I had no toys. I'd come to a children's home. I got nothing. And he'd bring his own toys to me. I remember I'd sit in Mary Street, or I'd play, the old tech building.
Yeah, oh yeah, the old tech building.
That's still there. That's fantastic.
My grandma used to work there. They had a cafe. I remember.
Yes, I think.
And my grandma used to make the coffee with milk. Coffee made with milk, and she used to come home. I said she lived in Green Street as well. And at the end of the night, she'd walk in. From when she come from the tech, she'd bring the last jug of coffee. We'd all sit there waiting for this jug of coffee. Honestly, she'd say, there's a full jug tonight for you, and we'd all sit there drink. Oh, wonderful. And that, you don't realise, do you?
Because really, you really haven't got your coffee,
But again, something similar, and I know people do talk about it, but it was a true thing, wasn't it? If you was a bit sugar short, or you just knock on the next door neighbour's door, wouldn't you? Give us a cup of sugar for tomorrow.
That's right.
And it was never a problem, was it?
No.
You wouldn't do it today, would you? You'd feel very strange knocking on somebody's door and saying, give us a cup of sugar till tomorrow, wouldn't you? But that highlights, I guess, how things have changed.
Well, the thing is, it's like, I mean, the street where we, like I said, at Mary Street, it was a brewery, but I sort of got I loved looking out of the windows and watching either the pitmen going past, the clinking going down with the clogs on, and I'd look out the top window watching going down Mary Street to get to St George's Pit or Jim Pit, or the brewery guys.
Oh yeah,
I got to know the brewery guys as well.
Well, you would, Les.
Well, they would. Well, they used to come. Imagine the size of the barrels now.
Oh, I know. Yeah, they couldn't deal with them.
Huge, weren't they?
They couldn't deal with them. No, incredible things.
They used to roll up in a flatbed truck in Mary Street.
Yeah.
They'd get them off by hand. They used to have a leather apron, pull the barrel off, roll it down the chest onto the floor, and then at the side of the scanners, there was a chute down.
And they went straight down there.
And they were with runners on. Yeah. No rollers, just runners.
Yeah.
They'd drop the barrels over.
Yeah.
And he'd put the straps over
to control
it. Yeah. And then they'd put it round the neck, and it would go down slowly to the bottom.
Yeah.
I do remember the
that.
same way, empties.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, and I was like,
but that's it.
That is such
a tough old gig.
Job.
Yeah, I mean, looking back again now, I mean, look how things have changed with like something like the dustbin men.
Yeah.
I mean, God forbid, these days they've got to be faced, they've got to be the right location, they've got to be facing the right way, or they don't get taken. And they might be too heavy, they get a sticker on top. I mean, God, back in those days, of course, the dustbins were those heavy around, and all the ashes from the coal fires. Yeah. So they used to weigh a ton.
They used to burn the bottoms out, didn't they?
They did, yeah, because they were put them in two.
Well, because of the Mary Street where I lived. The back to mine is like a little entry. Yeah. If you remember, after you go down Mary Street, it's a little entry.
Yeah.
And that goes to the pub as well.
Yeah.
So they used to have to do the pub ones.
Right.
So they do the pub ones, and they'd walk in an L shape all the way down to the truck.
Honestly,
every bit.
Honestly, nobody missed, did they?
No.
And they'd carry these over the shoulders or whatever, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And I look back now. I think back to those days when I see somebody with a dustbin and a sticky label on saying wrong way or too heavy or whatever, and I'm thinking, God, we've not gone forward that well, have we, to be perfectly honest with you. Back to the what's this on here? Back to this pub here. Remember when the Star and Garter when they knocked it down?
Sadly, yeah, I do.
And what came in its place? Can you remember that?
Let me think.
Because I tell you why, we were kids. We used to when they knocked it down, that space there. We used to play football on there until it was decided what they were going to put. I'm sure they had the plans already, but they started to build a co-op. Right? It wasn't a co-op that in recent times was there. It was an earlier one than that, and they built a co-op there. I remember the footings going in and everything, and we played on there. And then I think it might have been about 74, something like that. I might be wrong, but around that sort of period, they finished the co-op and they had an official opening on the square area.
Didn't they get some celeb?
They did get a celeb. I don't know whether you can remember who it was.
Was it Ronnie Corbett?
It was Ronnie Corbett. Yeah. Well done, Les. Well done, mate. Because I've asked people on the radio, and so few people can remember it.
Yeah.
And I've had all these names thrown at me as though it was. I said it wasn't, and I know it was right because I was there. And Ronnie Corbett had this ribbon that he had to cut, and I think he probably walked underneath it, Ronnie. Because he was only small, wasn't he?
He was only small, yeah.
But yeah, and people, I mean, I still talk to people in here, and I mentioned Ronnie Corbett coming to Tyldesley, and they can't remember it, you know. But and then of course, did you spend any time on the jig?
Well, my wife was from the jig. She lived in, I think that was it Banks? Was it Banks?
Oh, Bank Street, yeah,
Banks,
yeah.
There's a few, isn't it? But they were knocked down. When I lived in Alexander Street, they'd already flattened the jig by then.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I remember we had a row about council tax.
Oh, did you?
And growing up, Peter Hodgkinson did something about it.
Oh, did he?
He wrote a letter to the council saying about this. Said, look, you've knocked these down, you've left all the rubble here, which is dangerous for the kids. Said, can you not clear it up? And do you know they did?
Did they?
The council came
Well,
out.
he had a
and
with words, Peter, didn't he? I suppose he still has.
He loved that. Like I said, he was proper through and through Bongser, Peter.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
No, he is a proper Bongser.
Yeah.
And there was lots of proper Bongers, wasn't there? When you look back, in you know this. I mean, I suppose because again, you're a little bit older, so you've got different. You've got even longer memories than I've got, you know. But I mean, I can remember people like Charlie Breeze.
Well, do you know you've just took that memory off me?
Honestly,
Charlie Breeze. Well, a friend of mine, he lodged with Charlie, but Charlie was an out-and-out roughneck.
Wasn't he just?
Oh, you did.
He loved the scrap.
You didn't mess with Charlie.
No, he loved the scrap.
But I'll tell you, one day we were out and I was with a guy called Frank Ottiwell. He's gone now, poor guy. We had a Vauxhall, like a Cresta.
Right.
But a beautiful car.
Yeah.
We worked for Ratcliffe's, the potato merchant.
Well, there's a story in itself. We'll
Frank.
We'll have a do with that one in a minute. Ratcliffe's.
Yeah. And we're just messing about. We'd been to Allerton, had a drink. We were just messing about. We used to knock on the door. We were too old to do it, but we did it. Thought we'd knock on the door. Up in Arnsford there. And it was only Charlie Breeze's house.
Was it? Of all the doors to knock
and
on.
I said to Frank, of all the people we had to pick.
You picked.
So he just walked down, he'd got a suit on, he always wore a suit, Frank. I didn't, I was just whatever
Casual.
I was on at the time. But I'd run across the road and he came out and he looked at me, I thought, oh, I'm in for a good battering.
Yeah. And he was only a small guy, wasn't he?
But he was
as tough as
solid,
nails,
a lot of these round here do not.
Do you reckon if he knocked him down, he'd just jump back on
He would.
And eventually he'd grind the other guy.
They're the worst.
Oh, yeah.
Adrian.
Yeah.
They get up again. They're not very big, and they get up again.
You know,
you're in for it.
Yeah,
because they're tough as nails.
Yeah. But you know, back to you mentioned Ratcliffe's in Derby Street.
That's right.
I can remember my mum and my grandma both going out for the vegetable. You didn't go to the. You didn't go to. There was no supermarkets really.
No. Well, there was the A1 shop.
The A1. There's another one, but I think it was next door or one of the just here somewhere. That was Ernie Woods. Ernie Woods.
That's right.
His son, one of his sons, was here at the music festival talking just outside to me, remembering about the A1 stores. Yeah. But back to what's his name? Ratcliffe's. There was the old chap with his clogs on. He used to follow the. So the Ratcliffe's, for the people who might listen to this, the van would turn up into it'd drive into your street, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And they'd knock on your door and would come out with our shopping bags. There was no bags and polythene bags. Straight into the bag. Potatoes, carrots, whatever you wanted. And there was 3 generations. There was the old fellow with clogs on. There was Alec Rack. And then there was his son, Michael. And I still see Michael around town.
I still see Michael.
He
worked to the Morrison's, didn't he?
Morrison's, he did. That's right, he did for a while. Yeah. So again, the shopping experience was so different back then.
Exactly.
And my grandma, I used to do my grandma's shopping on a Saturday morning. So she lived on Shuttle Street, opposite Mrs. Mercer's. I don't remember Mrs. Mercer's shop. I've put a play out 1,000 times if anyone's got a photograph of Mrs. Mercer, and nobody's ever come back with the goods, unfortunately. But anyway. I used to go down to my grandma, she lived on Shuttle Street, and she used to give me this list. And I don't know why she gave me the list, because it was exactly the same list every time. Every time. Yeah. And I'd start off up here at the pet shop, and I'd go to the butcher's here for a sheep's head, right, for the dog. Sheep's head for the dog, and then we'd end up picking some paraffin up from Castle Street, and she used to give me 2 shillings, 10 pence. for doing it, and she'd give me she'd stick a saving stamp on a card for me. So shopping back then.
Shopping experience, yeah.
You know,
it was like you said, there was no frozen food, and the thing is, I mean, I can remember.
No, there wasn't, was there?
My mother would get flour. She'd start from scratch.
Yeah.
Like I say, from the A1 shop, flour, raisins, you name it. She'd make it. I'd help pinch a bit if I could.
Yeah.
And make it. You know, we'd get baking tin. All the lot, and we used to have a larder.
A larder, yeah,
of
course,
the
absolutely.
cold larder, and there was,
Yeah.
you know, and she used to put the cake in there, and if she'd get a beef, she'd put a press it, she'd put a weight on top of the beef.
Yeah.
So it would be weighed down and go flat.
Honestly.
And that would go in the larder as well.
Well, the older people, they were super smart. When you look back, some of the things that they did. I mean, if you was out playing with your mates on the street and you bumped your head, and your big bump had come up on what did they used to put on it? Can you remember?
Well, they used to make what was it called now? Dot leaves. And
well, they were for these things, weren't they?
Stuff like that.
The natural stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I used to, if I played football and banged me and a big lump of, I'd run in and my grandma would say, "Come here," and she'd get the butter, a bit of butter, and she'd rub the butter on.
Yeah.
And I think back, what was that about? But there must have been I guarantee there would have been a reason why they did stuff like that. But
he said, because I mean, like I said, we were in Beechwood Crescent then, and so my dad grew everything as well.
Did he grow his own stuff?
Yeah, he grew ours. Also, we'd have rhubarb, you know, you name it, everything.
Wonderful.
Yeah, sprouts, you name it.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
So we didn't need everything was done. And when you think how much hard work it must have been,
yeah,
and you didn't realise it, and you don't.
No, you don't know. You didn't appreciate it when you think back.
No,
you couldn't have appreciated it, could you?
And we always came home for dinners from school.
Yeah.
And there was always.
Oh, did you always come
for
home for?
me.
Yeah.
Because I like biking, and I used to bike there, bike back at dinner. My dinner would be ready. I call it dinner, but it's like lunch.
Yeah. It's now lunch, you know, dinner's now, when I go to my daughter lives in Surrey, and if you mention dinner, it's of course it's 6 o'clock. Yeah, of course. Dinner was 12 o'clock, wasn't it? You know, pie, down to the pie shop.
That's right.
And there's a subject, and he sells pie shops.
Pie shops, yeah.
I don't know whether you've had a favourite. Now, bearing in mind, before you speak, Les, I'm a Whittaker. Just before you speak, so I don't want to lead you down a path.
Right. Well, do you know, funnily enough, there's a shop called Whittaker's.
Oh, is there really?
You know,
that's the one we used to go to, actually. Weren't they fabulous?
Yeah, they're the ones.
Yeah. Well, Jimmy, it was Laura and Jimmy.
Laura.
Jimmy was my granddad's brother. So so I'm quite very much related to Whittaker's. But there was lots of, what other pie shops can you remember? Remember the one down here on Stanley Street?
Do you know, that's really, there's that one and the one just a bit further up. Dawson's. And the one, well, that was a bit later, wasn't it, Green Arches? That wasn't there then.
Yeah, Green
So we're not
Arches.
called that one.
No, that's not.
But mainly it was Dawson's and Laura's, them were the two.
Laura's, a lot of people called it Laura's, but it was Whittaker's pie shop.
But he was, the son, or which will be the grandson, was a good friend of my son's.
Oh, right.
So, yeah.
I bet he was called James.
It was James, yeah.
Because they're all called James. The father was called Laura and James.
Yeah.
His son was James, and his son's James. So there's a bit of a pattern emerging there. But fabulous pies.
Yeah, I got sort of to know him. Well, Stuart, my youngest, he died as a young guy.
Oh, sad.
And he was a friend of, and he did all the pies for his, for the Remembrance Day.
Well, I can remember again. I used to be in town. There was a family in town that I don't really remember the Baxters. There was the Baxters tobacconist here.
Yeah.
There was Fred Baxter and Tom Baxter, who lived on Upper George Street, and Tom was the town milkman.
Right.
And I was.
That's right.
Do you remember Tom?
He had
a stutter in Tom, and he always had a pipe in his. And in fact, he never saw him with that pipe in his mouth, to the degree that his front teeth they were shaped around this pipe.
Around the pipe.
And our very last customer on a Saturday morning was the pie shop down here, which was Topham's. They came a few years later. The Topham's. No, and we used to go in there, and Tom would come out with 3 meat pies on a Saturday. We'd been working since 6 o'clock in the morning, and we used to sit there there was Tom and his wife and myself, and this meat pie was wonderful, Les, honestly. It was fantastic. But and there was another one across here, Withington's. Remember, I remember Withington's across here.
I remember that now.
Yeah,
It's funny
yeah.
when these memories come back.
Oh,
to you.
yeah.
But I mean, can you remember one of the first shops I ever went to was, and it was on Astley Street.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the name of it, but they used to get a nice lolly for me. If I was being a good lad,
Yeah.
back to being young now, they used to go to right, you can get a lolly.
You've been a good lad, you get a lolly.
And I always remember it was Pendleton's twice.
Pendleton's twice, sir. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Do you remember those?
I do.
Yeah.
My pal Graham, he talked about Pendleton
Yeah,
twice
does he?
all the time.
It's-
Yeah.
it's-
And the other thing was, and I know you see them again now, they've come back, but back then, the old Jubblies.
Yeah.
The orange
old
Jubblies.
yeah.
Oh,
So bite the
fantastic.
corner off, didn't you?
Yeah, to get in there.
That's right, yeah.
And then the other thing I've got great memories of is the wakes. You know, down on the common.
Yeah,
And I don't know why, Les. I don't know whether your memories will testify this, but when the wakes turned up, it always rained. No matter what. I think they came twice a year,
Yeah.
but it always
It was always muddy, wasn't it?
muddy. So on the Thursday, the first night, you'd go on there and
Yeah.
you'd be up to your ankles in mud,
Yeah.
and it would be pouring down. You'd be miserable and fed up. So eventually, you'd end up going to the black pea. Remember that black pea stall?
Yeah, with the benches.
Yes,
Stuff
you know, all the
benches
benches.
round, didn't they?
Yeah.
And you'd sit there with your peas. And,
Were they
and
great?
then the hot potato
Yeah.
guy used to come with them. The cone. There was a cone, and he used to have like maybe 4 or 5 potatoes.
Yeah,
in it.
yeah.
Oh, it was
Fun-
salt on it. Oh, he used to say, oh, beautiful. It sounds silly now when you say it
Well,
to people,
but you know something?
What memory?
Thinking back now, I mean, there was no pizza shops.
No,
There was no kebabs. We didn't know what a bloody kebab was, did we? To be
No,
perfectly
we
honest, we didn't.
I think
There was
Dad
no-
got married and I was
Yeah.
about 20 on before I knew what a pizza was.
Incredible, but that's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember the first pizza shop opening in Atherton. I'm thinking, boss, this is quite exotic.
Yeah,
And you know what I mean? Now it just seems
Yeah, it
ridiculous.
does
Now
now,
that's
yeah. It's-
so. We've seen a lot of changes, I guess, in our lifetimes,
definitely.
don't we?
I mean, it's whether you think, is it for the better? I mean, and everybody
Well-
says it's progress, isn't it?
Well, they say that, but I don't know.
No.
And it's funny. I never thought I'd reach this age where I felt like
Well,
this.
you don't, do you really?
No,
you don't.
no. Everything seems to have.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I'm sure there's lots of people say that. I think the children today have missed a lot.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
would say because, and I know it sounds silly because you're getting on in years,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and I look back how happy we were with just simple things.
Correct.
You know, I could go out and I could play for hours, and
Yeah.
you know, I'd find a friend who was there.
Yeah.
And we'd either, you know, we'd go and loop things, or we'd go down near the railways or where the little brewkers, or
Yeah.
sail things down there, or go and have a look at to the station and watch a few of the trains shunting.
Yeah.
In the back there, do you know what I mean? Just
Marvellous.
things like that.
Do you know what? It's funny. I can remember living on Green Street, and when it was really hot, all the time
That's
between the
right.
cobblestones would start to melt and
Yeah.
run, and I'd sit there for two hours on the
Yes.
on the
I
curbstone
remember
with a
doing
lolly
that myself
stick,
with a lolly stick.
just play with it with a
That's
tar.
right,
And
yeah.
I tell my kids, they're all grown up, of course, but I tell my kids, and they give up for Dad. I said, I'm telling you, you could spend an afternoon
Really?
just messing around with a tar on the.
Yeah.
And we get. I tell you the other thing I used to get when the old what's his glasses, the magnifying glass.
Magnifying glass.
And you'd go behind your mates and you'd
Yeah,
sort of
so you
get
get
the
a
sun.
bird, try and concentrate
So-
onto
suddenly
the
birds on this.
Yeah, they'd get right on the back of the
Oh, what the?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's right,
some of
they
the
get
some of the
birds.
stuff that we
Just for simple,
that we
just
did.
for simple things. Like
Yeah,
that. I mean,
yeah.
I was so. I'm like, I'm way back to when I was small again on Mary Street. Do you remember the print shop?
The print shop.
Well, opposite
not sure.
Scanners on Mary Street.
Right.
Well, all that big. I think did they sell television? Oh, they meant computers, don't they?
Oh, what? No,
And
no.
bikes.
Right.
The
Okay.
bikes.
Oh,
the
yeah.
first shop on top of the
Yeah.
Tyldesley
I'm
Street,
right. Okay.
Well, that building was printers.
Yeah.
I think it was Smith's printers.
Right. Okay.
And they used to actually stamp metal, things like that, you know, proper
Yeah.
printing, stamp, copper, brass, you name it. Used to
Yeah.
do.
What they did there, they
They
did,
did
it
it all there at that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure it's got the name still on the wall.
Right, right.
In massive letters. If you have a look, I'm sure it's
Yeah,
still there.
yeah.
But there was a lad who used to see me playing on my own, and he used to throw little bits of copper out the window. And very naive, me, and I used to feel, where's this come from? Because I didn't use the printers, and he'd do it all day.
Right.
He'd do his bit of work, and then he'd see me play, throw a bit of some copper out, and I'm thinking, where's that? Where's it coming from? And I had not a clue. And it was years after when he told me it was him, because I used to say, hey, have you seen anything? Have you seen this coming down? Just some material coming down from somewhere. No, I don't know.
No, of course it is.
Because I was so naive. I just believed
yeah,
it.
right, yeah.
You
know,
don't believe he lied. He was lying, so he did. And I can always remember that lad sticking his head out the window and saying, no, it was actually me.
Yeah.
I used to do it.
You used to do it, honestly.
Yeah, but they had big copper plates they used to have.
Yeah. Well, there was a company down there as well, wasn't there, down Lower Elliott Street. They did was it Grundy's?
Grundy's.
What did they do? Did they do
the grids? I bet if you look, they did. Oh, do you know when we were going to park there when they came at 12 o'clock? And guess what? The council had lifted the grid up.
All right, okay.
Which is a rarity.
Well, yeah, it is indeed.
You know, there was a yellow bus here.
Yeah.
And they got the grid up, so we didn't know where we could stop. So we had to go all the way around the block again, come back. And then I got the message from Adrian.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, we might as well nip home then. I thought, I've never seen the council lifted grid up before. No. So it might be worth stopping and walking.
Yeah, see what they get up to.
It's probably a rarity.
But when you sit here like this and you think back, God, you know, you touch on a subject and you can go back to anything, can't you? You know, it's like any single subject that you mention, it takes you back to earlier days. And you know, the one thing, and I think back, I'm like you, I think back in the day when I was a young lad growing up with my mum and dad and my grandma lived across the way, I think back, they were wonderful, wonderful times. And the strange thing is, we all had one thing in common, we all had Nowt.
Yeah.
And that's the reality, and we all had Nowt, so there was nobody wanted to be better than anyone else.
There was no designer gear, was
there was nothing like that. We all had Nowt, so in that respect, it was a level playing field, and we all sort of cared for each other, didn't we, and looked after each other. And I think that community spirit, to some degree, has disappeared, and I think that's probably because now some people have got more than others, and people don't like it, you know, and all the rest of it. And back then, that's what I remember. Everybody having Nowt.
That's right. If you had nothing, that's correct. I mean, it's sort of a lot of it now is it's a competition between them, isn't it? One gets a new car, I want a newer car.
Absolutely.
They've got a conservatory, I'll have a bigger conservatory.
Yeah.
They've got a yacht, I'll get a bigger yacht. Yeah. And it seems to be that.
Yeah.
And you know, and I know it sounds, well, you're getting on in years now, but I still think, you know, just chill out.
Yeah.
You're here once.
I know.
You know,
I know. Enjoy the ride. Don't worry about it.
No,
and that was
please,
and
don't
again.
waste it.
I suppose as you get a bit older and you start finding you get yourself a job. I'd be sat at home with my mum and dad, and I'd say to my dad, I'm going, where are you going? I'd say, I'm going to get a job. You know, when I was like, just left to go, I'm going to get a job, because you could do that. You could literally walk out the door, go and knock on 3 company shop doors, and they'd say, all right, you can start tomorrow. It was unbelievable. Thinking back, you could get a job anywhere, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I got 2 jobs straight away on Chaddock Lane. I worked at Kencast, that was the first job I ever had.
Right.
And then there was a place across the road, I can't remember the name of it, but it was something to do with spinning yarn, I think it was.
Yeah.
Synthetic yarn, I can't remember the name, but probably somebody will. I'm sure if I said the name, it's something, some fibre export, something like that. I remember that. And then somebody said, go to the cable works, they have a rugby team. So I just went to the cable.
Because they had a rugby team?
And my uncle, the one who was born in Green Street, he worked there as well.
Did he?
Yeah, and his son worked there.
Do you know what, everything was...
It was, you know, so I went and worked at BRCC.
Yeah, everything like you said about Link, he worked there, Green Street, I had Auntie and Uncle Granville and Pat on one side, Peggy and Walter on the other side. My grandma lived facing us, we lived here, and you'd find that you'd have like 3 and 4 families, or you know, sisters and brothers and all that, in the same street. So you'd have I think originally the parents had lived there, and then the kids had moved, and they'd get married, so they'd find, there's a house down there. 3 doors away, we'll buy that. Yeah. So it's quite often in Tyldesley you'd find the same family in the same street. Yeah. You know, they never seem to move a long way from where they stemmed from.
I think my wife, Jacqueline, she had the same thing. You know, there was mother and brother, you know, all sort of, they still are now. You know, just in that little
area
of area removes the common, you know.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that's worked out, really, isn't it? Because people can go far and wide. Which I mean, I think back of the lads who you know and who's sadly gone, a lot of them, and some just, you know, just moved away. And sometimes you think, oh God,
yeah, remember that.
Do you remember him? Or
Yeah.
do you remember
The walking, not the walking days, the festivals, the
Tyldesley festivals?
Tyldesley festivals.
Oh, great with it!
Oh,
Great with it! But the one thing I can remember in the festival was the pram. The pram race.
Pram race.
Was it? I'm not a good enough drinker, Les. I'm being honest with you.
Well,
I'm not a good enough drinker.
That takes some doing.
Yeah. And didn't they used to call into each pub for a Jill? For a Jill a bit or something, and then they'd get back, and then they'd start running along the street here to the next one, and I'm thinking, and at the end they were completely. There was a mess with them.
I can't remember anybody actually finished.
No, it didn't matter, did it?
I'm sure somebody might have done. I certainly didn't, but I know the lads who did. You know, and that was it. It was a build up to it because we'd go in the Black Horse. I never get a pram, right, I've got a pram, my auntie's got a pram, I'll get that right. They'd reinforce it, which lasted about 2 minutes.
Yeah, first pop and then
they go round one
they
corner,
were great, weren't they?
the wheels would collapse, you know, but they'd still be pushing it.
And walking day as well, because we don't see walking days these days, do we? And like you said, all in your silks, in your fineries. You know, I remember back then, the kids would come walking along with the proud parents and that. Yeah. And everybody made such an effort, didn't they, to look, to look smart.
I think somebody had a bit of a movie, didn't they, of it? I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen something on Facebook, and I was looking to see if I could see any, if I recognised any.
Yeah, that's what
any
I was doing. I recognised
faces.
my ex-father-in-law because he played in the band, and he's just shown him at the back. Because he had a flugelhorn, he played the flugelhorn.
Do you remember the chap who used to walk at the front?
Oh, that was Len Charnock.
Len Charnock. God, I remember Len. My dad used to work with Len many years ago.
Yeah.
Was he the one that used to throw the stick up?
Yeah. He did every year. He did that.
He was a character, wasn't he, Len?
Len was another a fine, can I say, a character.
Yeah, a real character.
Another character, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I bumped into him one day, and we were in one of the pubs. It's nearly always in a pub.
Well, you realise you spent a lot of time in the pub, didn't you?
And like I said, I knew Len, but he had I think it was his daughter or his son, I forget.
Yeah.
But they'd had children. They'd just had 2 children. And this is not even a joke, one was black and one was white, they were twins. And it was true, and he said, look,
really? That was true?
That's true. I mean, these days, you don't have to remember it because everybody Googles it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I'll Google it,
Yeah.
But yeah, that is true, and they were even on television.
Yeah.
Which, so how is this possible? Like,
Yeah.
The twins, but one's black, one's white.
Yeah.
Which is
Did you know much about your actual natural parents?
Right, well, I've come to that. Right, as I said to you, I was adopted. Right, I've been around lots and lots of children, so very difficult to. Anyway, my parents treated me. So anyway, years later, I was for the company I was working for. He sent me to work in London, in offices down London, east end of London. So on our break that weekend, me now wife. Yeah, we weren't married then.
Right.
But they knew we were going to get married, which is, the company allowed it. They sort of gave us a free honeymoon.
Right. Okay.
To be honest, and that was they were in Miles they were back in Politzer, which is is it old or something?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, little.
Yeah. We're Maxiled.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Where Maxiled was. Yeah, and when we were walking around London, and we saw, was it Lancaster House?
Oh yeah,
Which where they do the birthdays, marriages.
Yeah, that's right.
All the people.
Yeah.
So just on the off chance, Jacqueline said, "Well, let's go in. Let's see. We could probably find your real mother." I said, "No." I said, "That's not going to happen." I said, "No, we can't."
So at this stage, you didn't know anything.
No. All I knew was I didn't really know anything. They never brought the subject up really. My mother and my father didn't. They just said no. No. So. Anyway, she got this paperwork, so we started going through this paperwork and come across a name, and so she's very persistent, Jackie.
Once she gets, she's going to find.
She goes the whole way. I'm a bit laid back. She's always laid back.
No, come on, Les, we can solve this. Yeah.
And so she did start to ring around, and she managed to contact just out of the blue my real wife's brother. And she contacted him, rang him up, and she said, do you know such and such a person? Yeah, that's my sister. She said, well, I've got a son here.
and she didn't know where I'd gone, what had ever happened to me after all those years. And I finished up, I went up to meet her, and she was living in...
Did you go to meet her?
Yes, I went to meet her.
Oh, Les.
But it's not, everybody thinks, oh, it's fantastic. And it's not like, what was that, the programme what Sulla Black used to do?
Yeah, I know.
Surprise, surprise, it's not like that at all.
No.
It's very sombre and very...
Is it?
Because she weren't so sure, I wasn't so sure, but I could see the likeness in my son, in my mother, and me.
Yeah.
And she was very closed, very cold.
Was
it cold, and not so sure whether she'd done the right thing
right.
to go there.
And did it not? It didn't make.
We kept in touch, and I found out it had 3 sisters.
Good.
So
honestly,
one lives down near the New Forest, Weymouth, I think it is. That's near.
Yeah.
And the other two live in Yorkshire.
Right. So nobody over. You're the only one that made your way into Tyldesley.
Yeah. We've all kept in touch, and we Pat, who's the eldest sister, we sort of the closest, and I go up there. She comes down here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
My mum lived till she was 90 odd. I was there when she was going. You know. I went up. And she got.
So there was some closure. At the end.
Well, that's it. Yeah. But I think if it hadn't been for Jacqueline, my wife, I don't think I would have done it. But she was very cold, and it sounds horrible, but she never gave me any information at all.
No. And I suppose it's such a long period of time, and it's a very odd
and I
thing,
think she'd had quite a few bits of money, and she'd travelled the world, because I used to get cards from all over the world. But I've always classed Tyldesley as a home. It's always been home to me.
It will always be home to me as well, to be honest, mate. And you know, another thing we've talked about, I know this is a bit funny, we talked about pie shops, chip shops. Do you remember the finest fish and chips on this planet? And if anybody sort of had this, witnessed this, tried this, was Grimes's on Shuttle Street.
And I knew the Grimes boys.
Well, I knew the Grimes boys. Yeah. Philip sadly died, but Philip was he was funny, Philip. And he used to try and pack in smoke. We used to go, I'll tell you a quick story. Lillian and Norman, right, who owned the chip shop. When you used to walk in, remember, Norman was only small. He had this machine where he used to put the potatoes into chips, right? And anyway, a couple of years later, me and Philip become quite pally, and we started going into the back on Friday nights and Sunday nights. Lillian and Norman used to go into the Tory Club here. So when they were in there, we'd all move into their house and spend a couple of hours to get the records out and play records and do all sorts. As long as we were out before they got back, we were fine. And many, many years later, sadly, Philip died. I remember, back to Philip, I remember once him saying, I'm definitely packing in smoking. He'd just smoked one out of a packet of 20. He'd 19 Embassy Gold cigarettes. And he said, I'm done. And he threw them into the back of the fire, and up they went in smoke. And half an hour later, he says, just going for some facts, he says. So he never, honestly. But anyway, when he sadly died, I went, they had a celebration of his life at the Tory Club. And I went in, and Norman had long passed, and Lillian was there, and I said, Lillian, I have to tell you this. It's been on my mind all my life, I have to tell you this. I said, when Norman used to be in the Tory Club, thinking, everything was fine, we were running riot in your house. I said, but the gun never did any damage. And she said, I can't believe that. And it went on for 3 years, 3 or 4 years, as I was growing up, and they never ever caught us. Yeah. But back then, can you remember how much you used to pay for a bag of chips?
Oh my goodness.
It blows my mind when I think back.
Something silly, wasn't it?
Do you know, I can remember paying...
6p? 6 pence?
I can remember paying 2.5 pence. A tanner for a bag of chips. Yeah. And again, I tell my kids that, and they think, no way. Impossible. Yeah. But that's how long we've been on this planet, that's unfortunately.
Right. I've got out with a £10 note and had a few drinks,
Come home a bit unsteady.
Because I started, I'd been to a few round here, but because I was asked, I started going to the Cart and Horses.
Oh, was that one of you?
Yeah, because I knew, it was a guy called Seth West.
Right.
But he was I didn't know, and he never bragged about it, but he was an ex-international rugby player.
Right.
Because we both had the same last name.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, and then one day I saw a picture on the wall, and it was of the Great Britain team, and he was on it.
Right.
But he never
See, some
never
people,
even said anything
no,
about it.
some people are very
And he was a
humble,
lovely
aren't
landlord, you know.
they? Yeah,
Lovely
yeah.
landlord.
What was your locals around these? I mean, I think you'd had the Black Horse.
I would say the Black Horse, Tony Mannix.
Oh, is that the big fella? Big Tony?
Big Tony, yeah.
He was a nice guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, lovely. We still
Are you still pally?
Tony. Oh yeah, he was
Yeah.
watching Lee.
Yeah.
But I don't really see him at home much, but I see him at the away game. Marge was at the B&Q here, she was manageress.
Right.
B&Q here, sorry, at Lee, what they just closed down. But yeah, they were a nice couple. They had it for a good few years. Me, the ex-wife, worked for them as well.
Where else did you go boozing?
Here, the Scanners.
The Skinners, yeah.
Yeah, I remember actually putting a glass window in that.
You?
Somebody, because I could actually what they call run putty then. You know when I say running putty, you put your putty in your window frames.
Oh right, yeah. Jay, did you do that sort of job? Was you a plumber?
I was a
or
plasterer.
plasterer.
Yeah, but I could do a lot of other things anyway.
Yeah.
So it got me quite a lot of plenty places. Always doing sort of some favours and some a bit of. Oh, you have to be careful with tax people. And somebody fighting and they put the window through on that but who had that then, the Skinners? Can you remember?
I can't remember who had the Skinners, to be honest with you. It's, as I say, unfortunately I wasn't a great drinker. I just couldn't. I mean, I used to go in most of them, but I never sort of.
Well, there was nothing wrong with that. I mean, I wasn't a big drinker. I didn't drink because of the lads. You just drink.
It's a bit of it, and rugby, of course, is
very rarely got drunk.
Hey, talking of businesses, do you remember this one here, the snack bar? Roy and Vera. I can't remember what the last name was.
Oh, the snack bar,
And they used to have them. They had 2 pinball machines and a jukebox, and you used to walk in and you'd get that was a tenner to play.
Pinball machine.
And there was a guy in there called Grundy. Again, back to named Grundy. John Grundy, I think he was called. He was a good footballer from grammar school, and he used to live in there. And so did I. We'd fight to get on the one of the to get on the machine, like you know what I mean. Yeah. And Roy used to, if you got 21 games clocked up, he used to go behind the machine and knock it to go down to nothing. And he used to give you 21 tanners. And he tried to put on a smile, but he really didn't want to pay up. He hated it, you know what I mean. But that again, I spent a lot of my young life in the snack bar, you know.
I think, I mean, like I said, because that playing rugby brings you out of yourself, and you have a lot of friends for life, like Gordon.
Yeah.
You know, Gordon, he welcomed me with open arms. He was proper, and he was with him being a building inspector as well, of course.
He was a council lad.
He was a council, and so if I did any plastering, he could have been the guy. He wasn't always, but he could be the guy coming checking it.
Oh right.
So
that came in handy, didn't it?
Well, this is it. You see, I mean, they could say, right, you know, that's not good enough. Do it again. Yeah. The power to do it. I don't know how they work it out now. But sadly, I seem to have lost touch with that.
No, he has got to be.
Yeah, he moved down south and.
Where is he now? Is he north? He's up north now.
South, no.
Oh, is he down south? All right, okay.
Somewhere.
Someone told me that he was towards like the Cumbria way, but I'm sure the Green mentioned that. But
unless he's moved and I don't know.
And you don't know
but
about
he did, because he got a job there. All his life going back years. I think it could have been Essex.
Right. Do you ever go into the little theatre?
Yes.
Did you have any sort of history there?
Yeah, no. Well, my dad was a patron of that.
Oh, right,
well,
okay.
Because my dad was he loved getting Tyldesley. It was the old urban district.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think councillors then, everything was done free.
Yeah.
They didn't expect anything, not even expenses. And he was a patron there, he was a patron at a lot of the... But he did what it says. You know, he'd go. He's not one of them who stop at, I'm a patron. No, he'd not go. Swimming club, he'd do it. He'd get off his backside and go do it. Suppose it. But we used to get Ken Dodd on quite a few
Ken Dodd,
times.
that's right. Ken Dodd was what was he? He had a position, didn't he? The Lifetime.
Yes, a Lifetime.
I think a Lifetime. A big supporter of
Vice President, I think.
Yeah, he was a big supporter of the little theatre.
He did.
And he'd go in and he'd start doing his. I think he'd rehearse his new material and stuff.
Yeah.
And he'd never stop. He'd go on and on forever.
That's correct.
Until eventually there was no one left in the auditorium. But I remember I used to go down there watching people like Colin Grime. Remember Colin?
Colin was another character.
What a character Colin was, wasn't he? And his mother. So there was Nancy Pearson.
Yeah.
Nancy she was a doctor's receptionist at Dr. Lucas's surgery.
Dr. Lucas.
Where my mum used to work.
He was a good friend, did you?
Oh, my mum
I
used
bet we
I'll bet you know.
at some time,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Dr. Salvi then followed
yeah.
Dr. Lucas, and Dr. Berman then after them. But I remember, so Nancy Pearson and Colin Grime, they were on the stage at Little Theatre. I used to go watch them with my mum and dad.
Yeah.
And it was funny really. I remember my dad going one year, and my dad was, if something was funny, you'd see it, he'd stream. And Colin was on stage, and he used to love watching Colin. And Colin was on stage doing this, and my dad was absolutely, it was in uproar, and he could see all these tears. And this girl who sat at the front turned round and actually told me dad off for laughing. And it was a comedy, you know what I mean? And he was trying to keep it in after that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But many years later, I was 59 and something came up on Facebook and it said, looking for auditionees for a play. And I thought, all my life I've always wanted to do that. Yeah. And I thought I could just do the one. So I went and like you went to the rugby club and you was frightened of going in.
Yeah.
That's why I was with the Little Theatre. And I got there and I've got my hand on the thing, and I thought, go on, I'm trying to,
yeah.
And I pushed myself and I went in.
Oh.
And I did 6 plays after that, and it was a fabulous experience. A real great thing, you know.
Yeah.
So the thing that we've got a theatre in Tyldesley, that's again it should be well supported. I think it is well supported in fairness, but it should be as well.
Yeah, it's like a charity, isn't it? So I think they do a lot of it. Does people do things for nothing, which it's not looped on sometimes to me. You know.
Do you know so many people back then did stuff for nothing, didn't they? Because, like we said, there was no money around, so they were looking for volunteers all the time, weren't they?
That's right, yeah. Well, I can remember going to the pantomimes. I always went to the pantomime days.
At Tyldesley?
At Tyldesley. Oh, yeah, I used to love the pantomimes, yeah. I remember taking my kids as well. I always said, come on, I'll walk you off to you go and watch Peter Pan or whatever it is on there, you know.
Fabulous.
We loved it, and it was, you contributed, didn't you? Because, like you said, it was just a revolving.
Yeah.
And everything, so you think, it was your life really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You just revolved around you. You could do anything. Really,
yeah.
You know.
And again, back to the high street, I think back, you know, like these days, you tend to have I said we mentioned no end of barbers and stuff, but there's certain businesses that we have these days, but the stuff like I said, butchers, there was 11 butchers in Tyldesley. There's not one now, is there? No. That's a sad thing, it's a sad state of affairs, really.
Yeah, there's the old tobacco shop.
Tobacconist.
Everybody remembers that.
Yeah, and the shoe shops, I think there was
shoe shops.
I think there was about 3 or 4. Yeah. Do you remember this one here, the one that had the mirror? Do you remember that, what's the name? What was he called? The guy, Harry Worth.
Oh, with the window.
With the mirror on the...
With the mirror.
Do you remember you stand there?
Who didn't do that?
Everybody walked there and did the Harry Worth thing. And I say to people, the Harry Worth thing, and the young people of today wouldn't have a clue what we was talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, but you could buy anything in Tyldesley. You didn't need to go out of town, did you?
Well, it was Pownall's, wasn't it, up there? Well, me and Alison were friends. She's the daughter of
Pownall's.
Yeah, Alison Pownall.
And what else? And jewellers, there was Lincoln Leach, Raymond Beach.
Raymond Beach, I remember.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I didn't get my wedding ring off.
Did you?
Not my wedding ring,
but the watch. Yeah.
I think I did. Yeah.
Because I don't think we didn't sort of jump on a bus and go out of town, did we?
You didn't have to, did you?
No.
I think the only time we did. I mean, I'm going back when we were in our teens, and we sometimes used to go to. Southport on the train.
Yeah.
And we just, a bunch of us, 5, 6, just out of, should we go to Southport? Yeah.
I know.
And you'd just be straight on the train there, there'd be no messing about, no. You know, you get a ticket, go to Southport, that's it.
Yeah.
Return, straight back. You know, and there's no messing about. But nowadays they've made it so difficult with the national transport. It's just laughable.
It is.
Absolutely laughable.
But I look back now at Tyldesley. If you sit there for any length of time and you know, sort of concentrate on a particular topic, you can just and for me, I don't know what you're like, it gives me a tinge of sadness really.
Oh, definitely.
And I don't know whether that's an age thing, but like you said, I don't think not everything's for the better.
No.
I don't think much of it seems for the better, does it?
I
I'm just, it's funny, I do exactly the same thing. And I could feel tears, they come to my eyes, and I'm looking at the old, like you said, the old walking days, and the old carnival days, just the people who we knew, and they'd gone. And you think, what a great atmosphere we had.
It was.
It's not something you can buy, is it?
No.
You can't buy it.
Well, they're bringing
live it.
I believe they're bringing the carnival back this year, Les.
I think.
Now I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure the pram race will still be part of it.
Right.
But,
I don't think I'll be doing that somewhere.
Yeah. So and then one other thing I wanted to talk about is I can remember the snowfall. Now, it sounds a strange one, this, but I can remember as kids. When it used to snow heavy, the first thing we always used to ask, is it sticking? Is it sticking? Right? And then as kids, we'd walk around the town with Mocko and Raggy, Stephen Riley and all these sort of lads. We were really good mates, and we'd walk around the town, we'd play at the back of the church.
Yeah.
And I can remember those nights when it had been snowing for 2 or 3 days non-stop. And it was silence. Because there wasn't the traffic, wasn't there?
That's right, it didn't, wasn't it? It was just sort of
like an eerie silence, wasn't it?
It was a very, very strange feeling.
And again, I think back to them memories, I remember them, and they meant something.
Yeah.
We don't...
Just sliding down the hills at Wells Street.
Oh.
On the banks, because it was like that, and then up and then down again. On the compact snow, that's why I wanted it to stick.
There was no health and safety in them days, was there? You just did crazy stunts, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I can remember down Astley Street. Do you remember that little orchard going down Astley Street on the right there?
Oh, right, yeah.
Do you remember it?
Oh, I do.
We used to climb over and pog apples.
Oh,
and stuff.
don't. I'm just going to say that. Yeah, I did.
Well, I didn't, obviously, but everybody else did.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But I remember doing that. Yeah, the little arch on the right hand side. And I got caught, and he knew my dad.
Straight away.
Of all people.
Well,
yeah. And all he did was just bring me down. Come on, right, I'd go down, apologise. He said, find him a job to do. I mean, that was the punishment then.
Do you know what, honestly, and that's the thing. I mean, even the police were different people, weren't they?
Yeah.
Thinking of talking of punishment, we had that, I lived next door, the first house that we lived in Green Street was next to the police station, right, the old police station. A lot of people can't remember it on Green Street, you know what I mean?
That,
but all those policemen, Dougie Murphy.
He's still a friend of mine now,
Is he?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Wonderful, you know what I mean? And they were like, I mean, obviously, they made sure that you weren't misbehaving, but they were friends, weren't they? And my mum used to throw these New Year's Eve parties, honestly, best in town. My mum never went out, never drinking, but New Year's Eve she'd put these parties on. Dr. Salvi, Dr. Lucas, they would come. All the bobbies, right? If anybody, and I said it to the radio, if you ever wanted to nick anything in Tyldesley, New Year's Eve, because all the bobbies were in our house getting drunk, unbelievable. They were fantastic.
See, they were part of the community.
Oh, they were absolutely, they were.
You said like Dougie and others. Even the doctors, like you've mentioned the doctors, Dr. Lucas, I got to know, Dr. Lucas very well.
Did you?
Did work for
Was
him.
he great?
And he finished, we went to Anglesey.
Yeah, I read that he deaded up somewhere that way.
John Anglesey. But I used to, he used to put a bit of work my way and everything, but they were the same, they were part of it.
And they'd do they'd have 20 appointments, 30 appointments a day, and then they'd finish, have a bite to eat, and then they'd be off on the visits to the house visits. Well, these days you walk in the surgery, there's nobody there, is there?
No,
they're all empty.
They have a regular
It's
doctor.
a different.
Get hold of them,
do you know, mate? It's been. I mean, we could carry on forever, I guess.
Yeah, I've loads to say.
It's and it's funny, like I said, and I must just reiterate this. I've known you from afar because you was this big, huge guy, and people told me how legendary you were on the rugby field, and people have told me that for a big tough guy, he also speaks very eloquently, and I know that for sure now. And it was always, and although I've talked about you on the radio and I've messaged you, it's been an absolute joy to meet you today. I promise you, it's been a joy, honestly. Wonderful.
Very kind of you, Adrian. It's very kind of all the guys here. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I don't think of myself as a legend. The only thing I'd say to myself is, I might be a bit of difference in Tyldesley.
Yeah.
And if I can make a difference in my whole lifetime, when I've gone, well, that's it. I don't want to be a legend. I just want to say, do you remember Les?
That's right. Yeah, and they will remember you for sure with good memories because not in all the times I've been around for quite a while myself, And I have never heard, honestly, I've never heard one person say one bad thing about you, mate. And
That's very nice.
And I know that's not.
Say.
Yeah, no, that it's right. So
Yeah,
if you've lived a
it's
lifetime with
Yeah.
that,
But
you know,
my parents were nice people, and I couldn't have wished for a better adoption.
yeah,
You know, and it's all down to them.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The way
You
they
are,
brought me
yeah,
up, respect, always have respect.
yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's like I've said to my two, four, because I've adopted two.
Right, okay.
Sadly, two's gone.
Oh,
Well, I said to them, just, you know, if you use your manners,
Yeah.
I can get you a job.
yeah,
You don't have to be clever, you don't have to be super brainy,
No.
you're polite, you're pleasant, you smile.
You've
Surprised
mentioned
how it
something
gets
there.
you.
Well, just to finish off,
Yeah.
I remember going to school. I'd jump on the bus, and if an old lady, not even an old, a young lady,
Yeah.
was stood up, and I was sat down, I was going to get up
You'd never think.
Would you?
More
Without-
of course you would.
without a second's thought,
Yeah.
because that's what your parents brought you up to be
That's
like.
it.
And it's amazing. I sometimes go down to London. I'm on the WhatsApp.
Of course you do, don't
And I
you?
see
Yeah.
young fellas sat down there, and older folks stood up, and I'm thinking, come
So
on.
you've lost that.
It's
You've
honestly,
lost it.
it's nothing, is it?
Yeah.
Just to offer your seat to
That very,
someone. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
It's a shame that
Yeah.
that part has definitely
Yeah,
gone.
yeah. Do you know we can do this all again,
Oh,
can't we?
I'd love it.
It's been absolutely brilliant,
Yeah.
mate. I've loved
Yeah.
it.
And thanks to everybody who's put it on.
Two proper bongses.
All right,
Get
yeah.
it
Well,
together,
you
mate.
can't beat that. Bongs is bongs.
No. And
it's
how's the
all
beer
good.
at Markland?
I've enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
I've really enjoyed it.
I've got to get that.
Thanks.
I've got to get
yeah,
that.
Yeah, but don't forget I'll be back.
Yeah, well, we'd
Definitely
love,
going to be back.
we'd love to bring you back, Les. It's been
lovely.
fantastic.
Yeah,
mate. Thank you
great.
very much.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
Yeah.